On a crisp September morning in 2001, a routine transcontinental flight prepared for departure. None of the 52 souls aboard Sky 472 knew that within hours, their names would be etched into history, not for how they died, but for how bravely they lived their final moments. Cut to passengers arriving, a retired firefighter holding his granddaughter's hand, an IT analyst, Eli Navarro, clutching a thick paperback, flight attendant, Mara Lane, adjusting her navy scarf. The boarding lounge hums with quiet anticipation, an ordinary prelude to an extraordinary story. Narrator: commercial aviation is built on predictability, schedules, checklists, weather reports. Yet every flight is also a small leap of faith. Strangers sealed in an aluminium tube, trusting one another and the sky. The camera lingers on faces as they settle. A newlywed couple planning wine tours, a college student scribbling lyrics in a notebook, business travelers trading jokes. Captain Ron Mercer's voice greets passengers from the cockpit, steady and warm. Mara moves through the aisle, sharing smiles despite the ache of leaving her infant at home. She checks seatbelts, tucks a blanket around a drowsy child, then returns to the galley where senior attendant Paula updates the manifest. Outside, sunlight pours across the tarmac. The jet taxis, climbs, levels into a flawless blue. Narrator: routine. That's the word airline crews cherish, but routine can shatter in an instant. Eli strikes up conversation with the firefighter, Frank Delaney. They swap stories of Boston sports, family, and favorite diners. Nearby, teenager Sarah Delaney sketches a horse in her journal. In the cockpit, First Officer Kim Yu monitors instruments, chatting about upcoming simulator training. Everything hums with quiet assurance. Narrator: for the next 30 minutes, Sky 472 traced a calm arc westward. A fragile island of normality suspended above a restless world. At 9:17 a.m., 3 passengers rise in unison. One strides toward the cockpit, brandishing a concealed weapon. Shouts fracture the calm. Mara freezes for half a heartbeat. Then her training overrides terror. She ushers nearby travelers toward the rear galley, speaking softly despite the adrenaline flooding her veins. In the cockpit, Captain Mercer's voice is cut short as intruders seize the controls. The aircraft banks unnaturally. Coffee spills across tray tables. Narrator: in less than 60 seconds, an ordinary morning flight became a battleground between fear and resolve. Through sporadic calls, fragments of grim news reach the cabin. Other planes have been turned into weapons. Tears, disbelief, quiet prayers. Mara steadies trembling hands while dialing ground staff. Eli volunteers to keep watch near the aisle. Frank Delaney places an arm around his granddaughter. Narrator: understanding arrived like a thunderclap. Sky 472 was not alone. A larger storm raged beyond the fuselage. Mara crouches by the aft jump seat, conferring with Eli. They map a slim path to survival. Disable the intruders, reclaim the cockpit, force a landing. Volunteers gather. Frank, a young nurse, 2 college athletes. They improvise tools: a metal coffee pot, belts, a catering cart. Narrator: no one aboard Sky 472 wore a uniform of war. They were teachers, parents, students, yet something older than training stirred inside them, the instinct to shield life, even at terrible cost. At Mara's signal, they surge forward. The cabin erupts, shouts, the clang of metal, a sudden dive as hijackers fight for control. Frank shields Sarah. Eli wrenches a door lever. Inside the cockpit, chaos collides with determination. The plane pitches toward open fields, far from crowded skylines. Narrator: in their last defiant act, they tore the future from terror's grasp, even as they surrendered their own. Weeks later, the National Transportation Safety Board reconstructs the timeline. Radio intercepts, cockpit voice recorder, fragments of fuselage. Diagrams trace how Sky 472's passengers delayed the hijackers long enough to divert the jet away from potential targets. Interviews capture grief tempered by admiration. Families speak of bravery etched into final phone calls, of strangers bound by a shared, unbreakable vow. History often records disasters in numbers, dates, times, statistics. But behind every figure stand faces, voices, and choices. Mara Lane's husband holds their infant beside Sky 472's new monument. Eli's colleagues establish a scholarship for quiet innovators. Sarah Delaney grows to teach art, her father's courage alive in every brushstroke. Narrator. Closing. They were ordinary people who, when darkness closed in, answered with light. The story of Sky 472 reminds us, in the fiercest moments, humanity's truest altitude is measured not in feet, but in heart.